I, 24M, took in my little sister, 8F, after our parents passed away, and my long-term GF, 23F, struggled to accept the responsibility, leading to the end of our relationship. English isn't my first language, so please bear with me if my writing isn't perfect. I'm doing my best to explain everything clearly. It all started last month. My parents had gone to visit my uncle, who lives outside the city. On their way back, they decided to take a remote road through the forest, probably because it was quieter and would help them get home faster. They were driving along when, out of nowhere, a moose appeared on the road. My dad, who was behind the wheel, tried to avoid it. He swerved at a high speed, but unfortunately, he lost control of the car. The vehicle veered off the road and crashed into a tree. The impact was so severe that both of my parents were killed instantly. Since it was such an isolated area, and the road they were on wasn't frequently used, no one saw the accident happen. Their car wasn't discovered until the next day, when someone passing by noticed it. By then, it was already too late, and they were gone. That day turned my world upside down. Losing both of my parents so suddenly was something I never imagined I'd have to deal with. It felt like the ground had been pulled out from under me. My younger sister, who was also devastated, went to stay with our grandmother right after it happened. But here's the thing. My relationship with my grandmother has never been great. When I was a kid, she used to hit me. Sometimes, I'll admit, I probably deserved it. I wasn't always the best-behaved child, but there were plenty of times when her punishments felt completely unwarranted. So, while my sister was staying with her, I wasn't exactly comfortable with the idea. And then, to make matters worse, my grandmother made it clear that she had no intention of adopting my sister. She said she wasn't in a position to take care of her. That left me as the only real option. When the question came up about whether I would take her in, I didn't hesitate for even a second. There was no question in my mind. My sister and I have always been incredibly close. She's my family, and I would do anything for her. I love her more than I can put into words. She's been through enough already. There was no way I was going to let her feel abandoned on top of everything else. So a couple of weeks ago, my sister moved in with me and my girlfriend. It's been a big adjustment for all of us. My sister is still deeply affected by what happened. She's been really quiet and withdrawn since the accident. She doesn't talk much these days, except to me. Occasionally, she'll open up a little to my girlfriend, but it's rare. We started taking her to therapy twice a week to help her work through her grief and trauma. It's only been a short time, but we're already starting to see some small improvements. She's beginning to open up bit by bit, and that gives me hope. Last night, after I stayed in my sister's room until she fell asleep, she has trouble going to sleep on her own now. I went back to my room, where my girlfriend and I share a bed. She told me we needed to talk. I could tell something was on her mind, and honestly, I had a feeling it was about my sister and the changes that have come with her moving in. My girlfriend started by saying that things have been really different between us lately. She pointed out that we haven't been spending much time together, just the two of us, since my sister came to live with us. And she's not wrong. Things have definitely changed. For example, we've only been intimate once since my sister moved in. And even then, it felt different. I wasn't as into it as I usually would be, probably because my mind has been so preoccupied with everything that's been going on. Then my girlfriend brought up something I wasn't expecting. She suggested that I reconsider adopting my sister and think about letting my uncle and aunt take her in instead. That idea immediately felt wrong to me. I explained to her why that wasn't an option. My uncle isn't able to work because of a heart condition, and since he didn't work long before he was diagnosed, his disability benefits are pretty minimal. My aunt works at a retirement home, which doesn't pay well, and they're already stretched thin. They're putting their older daughter through college, which is expensive, and they're also raising their 5-year-old son. Taking on the responsibility of my sister would just be too much for them, financially and otherwise. On top of that, my girlfriend is still in her last year of university, so money is tight for us too. Luckily, I found a good job after finishing school, and it pays pretty well. But even with that, things have been tough financially. I know it'll get a little easier once I start receiving government assistance for adopting my sister, but for now, we're managing the best we can. My girlfriend admitted that she's not ready to take on the role of a mother. She said she's not prepared for the responsibilities that come with essentially being a parent. She also told me that this whole situation has been putting a strain on our relationship. She's not wrong about that either. Before my sister moved in, we had a lot more free time to spend together. We come home from work and school and just relax. Now, our days are busier. We have to pick my sister up from school, drive her to therapy, and spend time with her because she hates being alone. I told my girlfriend that I understand her concerns and that she's absolutely valid in how she feels. But at the same time, I can't just walk away from my sister because it's difficult. She's my sister. She's my family. No matter how hard it gets, I have to be there for her. I told my girlfriend that she doesn't have to stay if this is too much for her, but I can't abandon my sister. That probably wasn't the best way to phrase it because it upset her. She asked me point blank, if I had to choose between her and my sister, who would I pick? I couldn't answer her. How could I? I love them both. We ended up arguing, and I slept on the couch that night. After she went to bed, I just sat there in the dark and broke down. Everything that's been happening lately, the loss of my parents, my sister's trauma, the strain on my relationship, it all hit me at once. For context, my girlfriend and I have been together for 9 years. She was close to my parents, and they loved her like she was part of the family. She's also known my sister since the day she was born. That's why it's so hard for me to understand how she could ask me to choose between them. I love them both so much, and the thought of losing either one of them is heartbreaking. I really don't know what to do or say at this point. I feel completely lost and overwhelmed. If anyone has advice on how to handle this, I'd really appreciate it. Edit. Just to clarify, some people seem to think I brought my sister into our home without discussing it with my girlfriend first. That's not true. We talked about it at length before making the decision. She agreed that we needed to bring my sister home, no matter what. That's why her reaction now caught me so off guard. Edit 2. I want to start this update by expressing my heartfelt gratitude to everyone who reached out with kind words, advice, and encouragement. It's overwhelming in the best way possible to see so many strangers take the time to help someone they've never met. Even though we don't know each other, your support has been a source of strength for me during one of the hardest periods of my life. Thank you for your condolences, your perspectives, and your understanding. It's incredible how words from strangers can have such a positive impact. Update. Earlier today, I took my sister to her therapy appointment, which has become a regular part of our routine now. Afterward, I came home, and as planned, my girlfriend and I sat down to have a serious talk about everything that's been happening. Update 2. That conversation turned out to be a lot more emotional and revealing than I expected, and I want to share how it all unfolded. When we sat down, the first thing my girlfriend did was apologize, like really apologize. She started off by saying that her behavior the other night was completely unacceptable. She admitted that she had acted selfishly and immaturely, and in her own words, she said she had been acting like a spoiled little brat. Hearing her say that caught me off guard because she's usually not the kind of person to openly admit when she's wrong, at least not so quickly or without a lot of back and forth first. She went on to explain that she had spent the past couple of days reflecting on everything, her behavior, our relationship, and the changes we've been going through. She told me that she realized she was completely in the wrong for how she handled things, and that she deeply regretted the way she had treated both me and my sister. She said she had let her emotions get the better of her, and that she had been lashing out because of how overwhelmed she felt. I told her that I appreciated her apology, and that I still love her just as much as I always have, even though what she said hurt me deeply. I also told her that I understand how hard this situation has been for her. It's been a huge adjustment for both of us, and I know it hasn't been easy. But I also explained to her that, no matter how difficult things get, I can't just walk away from my sister. She's my family, and after everything she's been through, she needs me more than ever right now. I reassured my girlfriend that I wasn't expecting her to take on the role of a mother to my sister. What I needed from her, I said, was to just be a supportive presence in our lives. I told her that if she wanted to step into the role of a big sister or a friend to my little sister, that would mean the world to me, but I wasn't going to push her into something she wasn't ready for. At one point during the conversation, I even offered her the option of taking a break from our relationship. I told her that if she felt like she needed some time to process everything and figure out how she felt, I would understand, but she immediately turned that idea down. She told me she didn't want her knee to break. She said she'd already done a lot of thinking and that she knew she wanted to be with me and stay by my side. She admitted that her outburst the other night had come from a place of fear and insecurity. She told me that everything in our lives had changed so quickly, and she felt like she'd been blindsided by it all. She confessed that she had been struggling to adjust to the new dynamic in our relationship, and that she didn't know how to handle the fact that my attention had shifted so heavily toward my sister. One thing she admitted that really hit me was how jealous she had felt. She told me that she had been feeling distance from me, and that it hurt to see me spending so much time with my sister while we barely had any time for each other. But then she said she now understands why my sister needed me so much, and that she feels awful for being so selfish about it. She explained that her jealousy wasn't about not wanting me to take care of my sister. It was about feeling like she was losing me. She opened up about how, for the past 13 years, I've been her rock, her constant. She said that when my sister moved in and my focus shifted, it made her feel like she was no longer my priority, and that terrified her. She admitted that she handled those feelings poorly and that she regretted the way she had acted. One thing she said that really stood out to me was how she had spent the past 2 days talking to some of her close friends about everything. She said that those conversations helped her realize that she wasn't losing me. Instead, she saw that something incredibly important had come into my life, something that required my attention and care. She told me that she now understands the weight of what I'm dealing with, and that she wants to help me through it in any way she can. My girlfriend promised me that I could count on her to be there for both me and my sister. She said she would do her best to step up and be a positive presence in our lives. And honestly, I could already see her trying. Earlier today, before the conversation, she made an effort to connect with my sister. She helped her with her homework, had a chat with her about school, and even helped her pick out an outfit before therapy. It was like I was watching her grow and mature in real time, and it gave me hope. I also took responsibility for my own mistakes during the conversation. I admitted that I hadn't been the best at managing my time between the two of them. While it wasn't intentional, I could see how spending so much time with my sister could have left my girlfriend feeling neglected. I also acknowledged that I hadn't given her much of a say when it came to the decision to bring my sister into our home. While I still believe it was the right thing to do, I could have communicated better and made her feel more involved in the process. We ended the conversation by coming up with a plan for how to move forward together. We agreed that we need to start couples therapy as soon as possible, and my girlfriend suggested we ask my aunt and uncle to watch my sister for a few hours over the weekend so we can attend our first session. We also talked about ways to balance our time more efficiently so we can carve out moments to reconnect as a couple. Before we wrapped up, my girlfriend apologized again, this time for not being more supportive of me during my grieving process. She admitted that she hadn't been there for me the way she should have and said that our fight was a wake-up call for her. She promised to do everything she could to make up for her mistakes and be a better partner moving forward. At that point, everything hit me all at once. The loss of my parents, the responsibility of caring for my sister, the strain on my relationship. It was like a tidal wave of emotion, and I broke down. My girlfriend held me as I cried, reassuring me and comforting me the whole time. In that moment, I felt like I finally had my partner back, the caring, compassionate person I fell in love with. After that, the three of us spent the evening together as a family. We played cards, laughed, and just enjoyed each other's company. For the first time in a while, I felt a sense of peace and hope. Thank you again to everyone who offered advice and support. I'm so grateful for this community and for the kindness of strangers who've helped me through such a difficult time. One thing I learned. If there's one lesson I've truly taken to heart from this entire ordeal, it's that communication is absolutely vital, especially when life throws unexpected challenges your way. Stress and grief can cloud your judgment and make everything seem so much harder than it already is. But I've realized that talking things out, even when it's difficult, is the only way to make sense of it all. When emotions are running high, it's easy to jump to conclusions or assume the worst about someone's actions. But I've learned the importance of sitting down with your partner, hearing their perspective, and giving them a chance to explain themselves. At the same time, you also have to be prepared for the possibility that things might not go the way you hope. You might not hear the explanation you were expecting, or even one you wanted to hear. When I went into that pivotal conversation with my girlfriend, I was ready for anything. I knew there was a real chance that we wouldn't be able to move forward together. As much as I love her, I was prepared to end our relationship if it became clear that we were on completely different pages. My sister is my top priority right now, and I wasn't willing to compromise on that. At the time, I thought my girlfriend had started to understand why my sister needed me so much, and I hoped that she could accept that. But deep down, I also knew there was a chance she wouldn't be able to. For a while, it seemed like things were getting better. She apologized for the things she had said, and we had a heartfelt conversation about everything. She even started making an effort to connect with my sister, which gave me hope that we could make this work. But unfortunately, things didn't stay that way. A lot happened. Since my last update, a lot has happened. More than I ever expected. In the end, my girlfriend, now my ex, wasn't able to handle the changes in our lives. As much as I tried to be patient and understanding, it became clear that she couldn't adjust to the fact that I now had a new priority in my life. I'll admit that I wasn't perfect in how I handled things. Looking back, I know I could have done a better job of balancing my time between the two of them. I spent the majority of my time with my sister, and while I think that was necessary given the circumstances, I can see how that might have made my girlfriend feel neglected. At first, it seemed like my girlfriend was trying. Some days, she would be incredibly sweet to my sister, going out of her way to help her with homework, have conversations with her, or even spend time doing little things like picking out outfits. On those days, I felt a sense of relief, like maybe we were on the right track. But then there were other days when she would completely ignore my sister, or even be outright mean to her. She'd snap at her over small things, or make little comments that came off as cold and dismissive. I tried to address this behavior every time it came up. We had multiple talks about it, where I told her that this wasn't okay, and that my sister needed a safe, supportive environment right now. Each time, my girlfriend would apologize and promise to do better. And for a few days, things would improve. But it never lasted. By the following week, we'd be right back where we started. The breaking point, about 3 weeks ago, everything finally came to a head. We got into a massive argument, the kind where all the tension and unresolved issues that have been building up for weeks or months finally explode. It started when she accused me of not loving her anymore. She said that I was neglecting her, that I was playing favorites between her and my sister. That accusation hit me hard because, first of all, I wasn't playing favorites. These aren't two kids fighting for attention. My sister is an 8-year-old who just lost both of her parents in a tragic accident. Of course, she's going to need more attention right now. I tried to explain that to my girlfriend, but she just couldn't seem to see it from my perspective. Things escalated quickly. She brought up the ultimatum she had given me before, that I had to choose between her and my sister. At that moment, something inside me snapped. I was so frustrated and angry, not just because of the ultimatum, but because of how she had been treating my sister that day. Earlier, she had been particularly cold and mean to her, and I couldn't take it anymore. I told her bluntly that if she couldn't accept my sister as part of my life, then she needed to pack her things and find somewhere else to stay. It wasn't the most graceful way to handle the situation, but I was at my wit's end. She left that night, and since then, I haven't seen her. We texted a few times to confirm that the relationship was over and to arrange a time for her to come back and collect the rest of her things. And honestly, I don't have any desire to see her again. My sister. On the bright side, my sister has been doing much better. She's come a long way from where she was a few months ago. She doesn't spend all day in her room anymore, and she's slowly starting to return to her talkative, bubbly self. She still doesn't like being alone, but that's something she's struggled with even before the accident. Since my ex moved out, my sister and I have been sharing a bed. It's a comfort thing for both of us, I think. She still wakes up crying some nights, but having me there helps her calm down faster. And honestly, it helps me too. One moment that really broke my heart was when my sister overheard the fight between me and my ex afterward. She came to me in tears, apologizing. She thought it was her fault that we had broken up. That absolutely crushed me. I hugged her tight and told her over and over that it wasn't her fault at all. I reassured her that she had done nothing wrong and that, if anything, she had helped me see my ex for who she really was. Therapy has been a huge help for my sister. She's made incredible progress since we started taking her. She no longer needs me to stay in the room with her until she falls asleep, and she doesn't panic if I leave the house for a few minutes to run errands. Seeing her healing, little by little, has been one of the most rewarding things I've ever experienced. Reflection. Looking back, these past 3 months have been the hardest of my life. Losing my parents, taking on the responsibility of raising my sister, and going through a breakup all at the same time, it's been overwhelming, to say the least. But it's also been eye-opening. I've learned a lot about myself, about love, and about what it means to truly be there for someone. My ex's behavior revealed a side of her I hadn't seen before, and while it was painful to go through, I'm grateful that I learned the truth sooner rather than later. I'm sorry that this story doesn't have a happy ending, at least not in the traditional sense. But life is messy and complicated, and sometimes things don't work out the way we hope. Edit 2. Once again, I want to thank everyone who offered advice, kind words, and encouragement. I wish I could thank each of you individually, but there are so many comments that it's impossible to keep up. Just know that your support has meant the world to me. Thank you for reminding me that there's still kindness in the world, even from strangers. I never expected this, but the support I've received here has moved me to tears. So, from the bottom of my heart, thank you.